gentlemen, get ready for Mr. Mark Garbelotto. Woo! Precise Fitout Solutions. Welcome, we're happy you're here.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me there? Thank you. Hi guys, so I'm here today to give you some insights into the fit out game. Before I do, I just want to give you a bit of background about myself. So I graduated as an interior designer in 1990. I became a registered interior designer in 1996 with the National Building Authority, and then in the year 2000 I became a commercial structural fit out builder. Now the reason I did that is because a lot of my clients, when I was designing their interiors, would ask me to obviously build them, okay? So there's a big difference when we talk about design and building. And now, fast forward 30 years, I'm really blessed to work with my sons, Will, who's the head carpenter, so we have a whole lot of carpenters in our business, and then my other son, Michael, who runs the OH&S compliance side of our business, which is really important when you're building a shop, all right? So I'm going to take you through 7 areas or 7 steps on how to avoid basically a bad outcome in your fit out, okay? So just show of hands, who has actually built a fit out? Show of hands. One person. Wow. And are you guys looking to build fit outs? What type of fit out?
Construction.
Construction? What type? Like a shop, like a restaurant?
We're looking to build a showroom.
Showroom. Okay, good, showroom. Anyone else building something over the next 6 months? No? Cool. All right, so let's get into this. So the first point is starting with a clear plan. All right? Clarity is key here. Okay, you must start with a clear plan. Set your goals and understand that unfortunately, if it's your first time doing a fit out, you are not the expert. Okay? I have a lot of people that come to me and want to tell me how to build a fit out. Or they ask me, you know, what's your capability? And I say to them, how old are you? And they say, why? I say, because I was probably designing and building interiors before you were born. So I know a lot about it, okay? So the first thing, have a clear goal. What are you trying to achieve and how are you going to achieve it? It's really, really important. If you don't have clarity, it makes it very, very difficult. Number 2 is work with a fixed price contract rather than estimates. We don't want people going, hey, how much is this fit out? This fit out's going to be $150,000, right? You need to have a clear contract in place with a clear building scope of works. And what that actually means is that you need to go and get some drawings, okay? So again, a lot of people come to me and go, well, we've got drawings or they've got sketches. If you're doing a fit out, there's a whole lot of compliance, which I'll speak about in a moment, but you'll need drawings that allow you to get a building permit. If it's a food store or a liquor, it'll need health permit, okay? If you're doing a change of use, it might need town planning. You might need a change of use. So you need a set of drawings that enables you to attain a building permit or other permits. It's really important, okay? So when you get these drawings, okay, then you can go to many different builders to price your job, okay? And you own those drawings, okay? So always remember, it's better for you to pay an architect or an interior designer for the drawings so that you own them outright. Because when you own them outright, then you can tender the drawings out, okay? And you can get the best price. But on those drawings, you'll need floor plans, electrical plans, hydraulic plans, air conditioning plans, DDA requirements, reflected ceiling, finishes, floor finishes, door skip, depending what it is. Okay? Then if it's next level up, if it's a pharmacy, then you're dealing with not only the building regulatory bodies, but you're dealing with the pharmacy board, the Australian Drug Control Office, the TGA for your therapeutic claims that you may be making in your graphics. So it's really important that you spend money on a set of drawings and getting a clear scope of works so that the builder can actually give you a fixed, solid contract price. That will allow you to avoid variations. And variations is what can just throw the whole project into disarray. We want to try and avoid variations as much as we can. The better your drawings are, the more information on your scope of works, your finisher schedule, your lighting plans, your hydraulics, whatever it might be, the more information on the specifications, the more the builder can give you a fixed price. The looser the drawings, the looser the scope of works, the more exposed you become to variations. Okay, it's really important. I can't stress that enough. And when you go to an architect or an interior designer, get their name and put it into the VBA, which is now the Building and Plumbing Commission, and make sure that they are registered. You actually have to be registered as an interior designer or an architect. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that don't have that registration, which means they don't have the insurances. So again, it's really important that you've got PI insurance from your designer or your architect, okay? Because that regulatory body allows them to be registered and to have the appropriate insurance and the qualifications for them to be doing what they're doing. If they don't have that registration, it's exactly the same with the builder. If you put their name and that doesn't give you a number, then they're not a registered builder. That means that you cannot get a building permit. Right? A lot of people will try and skip getting a building permit to save $3,000–4,000. No, you don't want to do that. All right? So always look at getting a fixed price contract. Right? And if you've got a solicitor, get them to read it. Make sure that you understand what you're signing, understand the payment terms, understand the progress claims, understand the defects and the handover and the timeline. It's so important. So fixed contract all the time. All right, a lot of people ignore compliance. Okay? Oh, we don't need a building permit. We don't need a licensed builder. We'll do it ourselves. Okay? The problem is if you go and do a commercial or retail or hospitality fit out and you go and engage the plumber, the electrician, the carpenter, and there's no building permit or there's no license, there's no insurance, if there's an accident on that building site and somebody is injured or there is a fatality or a death on that site and work cover comes in, you are the person responsible for that. So I say to people, not going through a registered builder or not going through a registered interior designer and architect is really a starting for recipe for disaster to potentially save money. Okay? And a lot of people will risk that. They will actually risk, not using a registered builder. Okay? Oh, I'll just do it myself. I'll be the project manager. Right? And what happens then, they start to bring in the electrician and they don't understand that they've got to get their compliance certificates, or the glazier, their compliance certificate, or the hydraulics, their compliance certificate, or the air conditioning, their compliance certificates. Because when you get a building permit, that's one step of the process. After you've built the fit out, then you have to get the occupancy permit. And the occupancy permit is the next stage of the building permit. So by getting a building permit, that allows you to build it, but it doesn't allow you to occupy and actually trade. Once you get all the compliance certificates, then the builder has to write a letter saying that everything is correct to the building code and that they, as the builder, take full responsibility. Okay? And in the commercial world, as opposed to residential, it's completely different. It's like the Wild Wild West. You've got to be very, very, very careful who you work with. Number 4, price over capability. I see it here. I talk to the franchisees. We'll get you to price a job, and if you can beat our other builder, we'll give you the job. No. It's not about price. It's about what you deliver. It's about the quality. It's the timeline. Okay? What are you delivering? What are you getting? Sometimes it's better to pay a little bit more and have that peace of mind that it's a registered builder. You're going to get all the insurances, you're going to get all the certificates so you can get your occupancy permit, and that you've got somebody to come back if there's any defects or any maintenance needs to be done. Because there's always maintenance, there's always defects. On every job, there's always bits and pieces at the end that need to be fixed, okay? So that's okay. So, if you are worried about defects in a build, don't worry about defects, as long as it's a builder that's going to fix the defects, okay? And that's your job. So if you're using an interior designer or an architect, you can also engage them as a project manager. So a lot of the architects and designers we work with, if we're just doing a straight out build, they'll be engaged as the PM, the project manager, right? And we'll work with them to deliver a project that is okay for the architect, designer, and for the client. The reason that the client would engage them as a project manager is because they may not know the building process. So again, they're going to an architect or designer, they'll spend some money on the drawings, then they'll spend some money on the project manager so that they can be their eyes and ears and help them, all right? After you've done a few, you can do it yourself, all right? Number 5, lack of coordination. All right, running projects, it's like, I call it like a funnel. So when you're running a project, it's like a funnel. There's all this work that has to get done in this timeline, okay? All of this work has to get done in this timeline. And on a project, we work on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis, because if that work doesn't get done, it's gonna break the funnel, okay? So your job is to understand the timetable, understand, is this a realistic timetable? Can it be done? I've had architects and designers ask me to do projects and they go, can you do this in 2 weeks? It should be easy. There's no way I can do it in 2 weeks. But some builders will go, yeah, we can do it in 2 weeks. It can't be done in 2 weeks, okay? So a timeline is really, really important, a daily timeline, okay? What trade's coming in on what day, how long they're gonna do. And a builder will do that. For every job, we write a full schedule. Full schedule, who's coming in, what day, how long, when they need to come in to do their start point, and then their midpoint, and their completion, all right? So coordination is really important in the fit out game, because when we get clients, they want to open up as fast as they can. Why? Because they want to open and trade and make money. And that's our job. Our job is to get that customer open as fast as they can so they can get into their new office, or if it's a shop, they want to start trading, making money, okay? When you're doing pharmacies, it's the next level. So you might get your building permit, then you get your occupancy permit, but in a pharmacy, you still can't open because there's another regulatory body above that, which is the pharmacy board. And once you then have that occupancy permit, you still can't open. Even though technically by law, you've got an occupancy permit, you can start to trade, you can't. So the pharmacy board will come out to site and they will measure everything and check everything against their guidelines to make sure that it is compliant to tick, and then they'll give you the opening orders. Yes, you can open, all right? So it's really, really, really important. Number 6, the wrong budget. I get people that come to me and go, I have a $25,000 budget or $50,000 to build this interior. There's no way. Like I said earlier, my son runs all the carpentry. We buy sticks of timber. We buy the bolts. I know what they cost. I know what it costs to set up a job site just for it to be OH&S safety. Okay, the bollards, the first aid, all of that kind of stuff. Right? There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it. So people go, can you build this interior for $50,000 or $80,000 or $100,000? You can't. Whatever, if you've got a job that you're thinking of doing, whatever the cost that you're thinking, my suggestion, because if you haven't done it before, is double it. So if you go, oh, I've got a $50,000 budget for this small little job, double it. Because if you start with 100,000 and it ends up being 86,000, that's good. And remember, I'll give you a tip, and I've got a friend of mine sitting in the audience today, Mr. Andrew Riley. You can actually get funding finance. Anyone aware that you can actually get funding finance? Now, obviously, if you're a new business, it's a little bit harder for you. You may not be able to get it. But I've had customers that have come to me and gone, oh, I want to build a pharmacy. I've got one already. I've got a $150,000 budget. And I want to do ABC, and we've gone, it's going to be $210,000, and we're short $60,000. We can get that money funded if they're an established business. Andrew, are you in the audience? Just put your hand up. So if you want funding, go and see this guy, Andrew. He does all my funding, and he's really, really, really good at it. All right. So, and from an ATO perspective, when you fund your fit out, it's actually nice and clean. You don't need to take money from your business. You don't need to take money from your home loan. You don't need to take money from superannuation. And it's nice and audited, okay? And there might be some good tax deductions on the interest as well. But again, speak to your accountant about that. So wrong budget allocation, okay? And where that money is spent, you know, if you've got a budget of 50 grand, 80 grand, you know, to get a good set of drawings from an interior designer or an architect, your starting point, depending on the job, could be between $5,000 and $10,000. If it's a high-end fit out, it could be up to $20,000, okay? Okay, but that's good money spent. Then if you're going to get them to project manage, depending on how many times you want them to go to site, you might allocate over that project, if it's an 8-week fit out, you know, they might go to site once a week, once every 2 weeks. A good allocation is about $5,000, okay? It's like your peace of mind and your insurance. And it's really, really money well spent, okay? Because if you haven't done a fit out, and unfortunately there are cowboys in all industries, people may take advantage of you, and you don't want that, okay? That's why you always look them up, make sure they're registered and they've got the qualifications, make sure they've got the insurances, make sure they've got the work safe, make sure they've got the swims in place, okay? It's really, really important. And number 7, no contingency plan. So what's the plan B? What's the plan B? All right, so I want to build this beautiful interior. What is the plan B? Okay, if it goes wrong. If I need more money, what's the plan B? You know, if I engage a builder and they say, you know, it's 50,000, then it blows out because of base building works, and it blows out to, you know, another 20,000 or 30,000. Where's the plan B to get that money? So again, if you can finance it, that's great. Okay, but you always have to be thinking of plan B. All right? So just remember that the fit out game is a complex way to build interiors. And our job is to, if you're doing your first 1, 2, 3 shops, is to not think that you're an expert. Okay? Get advice, get educated 100%. Okay? But leave it to the experts. Leave it to the guys that are going to give you that peace of mind. But do your research on them. Make sure they can deliver. Go and speak to some of their customers. Go to some of their interiors. Go and have a look. Are they falling apart? Right? And you will see, right? You need to, you know, really study, because when you're dealing in the fit out game, you could be spending $250,000. Right? You might spend $100,000. You might spend $50,000, depending on what you're building. But it's a lot of money that you got to fork out, and you've got to make sure that you have that money available. So in terms of that contract, if the contract says, you know, 20% up front or 30% up front, and then progress claiming at 30% or 20, whatever that number might be, you've got to make sure that you pay those on time, so that the project doesn't get delayed because you haven't paid. But make sure that you hold back money, 10%, 5% at the end, for the compliance certificates, for the insurances, to make sure that everything's done, and most importantly, any defects works. because you don't want to hand over the money and then they haven't finished the job or they haven't finished the defects. What's the warranty? Okay? So it's really important. So key points here to take away. Number one, always check that the designer, that the architect is registered under the Building and Plumbing Commission. Straight onto the website, punch their name in. If they don't appear, they're not registered. Same with your builder. And in building, there are different types of building, okay? So for what we do, we're a structural builder, interior, right? So we don't build structures, but we do structural interior works. That means we can take out walls, we can do concreting, you know, under the engineering drawings that we may need, we can do all that structural stuff. Then there are commercial fit out guys that are non-structural, so they can't do structural components. So if you then need to have a structural wall removed and then you go to get the building permit and the actual builder doesn't have a structural builder's license, you can't get the building permit because they're not registered to do structural fit out works. They might be registered to do just joinery, you know, just cabinetry and everything else. So there's different levels of registration in the interior fit out game. So that's the first point, to really understand, find somebody that is registered, and then once you're happy with them, build a relationship, go and see some of their jobs, talk to their customers, okay? Speak with their customers, see what they have to say. Was there delays? What were the headaches? You know, was there challenges, right? And again, when you're then dealing with your architects and designers, I always say, don't just allow them to design this beautiful space and specify really high-end finishes when you don't have that budget, right? So you've got to be clear with the architect or the designer, hey, my budget is 100,000. My budget is 200,000. I can't afford this marble that's coming from Italy. I will use a re-engineered stone that's a third of the price. Looks exactly the same. I say to my customers all the time, I can get you the stone for 40,000, or you can get a re-engineered stone for 14,000. Because I look at it from a business point of view. What's the return on investment? What is the return on investment, and how long does it take you to recuperate that $100,000 or $200,000? And remember, if you're in a shopping centre like a Westfield or a Lend-Lease or a Gandale vicinities, they may make you refurbish every 5 years. So if you're spending $400,000 on the fit out, and on a P&L it's going to take you 10 years to recuperate that money, and you're going to do a refit in 5 years, numbers aren't there. All right, so you've got to do your numbers. You've got to do your numbers. Don't get sold, oh, you need to have this beautiful marble, you need to have this mosaic tile, you need to have this designer light. You don't, okay? You can still design an interior that looks expensive, but you just be smart about it, okay? Because you've got to save your money, but you put your money into areas like compliance, like a registered builder to give you that building permit so that you can get your occupancy permit or your health permit or your town planning permit or your DDA compliance permit, because disabled access is really important today. And I have a lot of people, when we talk about DDA or design disability access on interiors, oh, but you know, we're a pharmacy, we're never going to employ somebody in a wheelchair. Well, you're already discriminating by saying that, and that's the problem. Or we don't want the disabled handrail. No, the disabled handrail, we're putting it there because it's your insurance policy. Because we're paying extra money for a DDA consultant to tell us what we need to do so that we won't get sued. It's all about ticking boxes. You want to tick boxes in your fit out. So whether you like it or not, depending on the fit out you're doing, if you need a DDA consultant to, you know, show that disabled people can come through, whether it's on crutches, whether it's on a wheelchair, well, we may not like it. We may not want to spend the extra $5, $6, $7, up to $10,000 for a DDA consultant, but we're making it compliant, and it's an insurance policy to give you peace of mind and security. And I say this to my clients all the time. We do this to protect you. Okay, we do this so that if there is somebody falls on your interior and they're on a wheelchair, in a wheelchair or on crutches, that you have done everything under the DDA requirements so that you're protected. It's all about protecting yourself, because these days we do not want to be non-compliant and exposed. Whereas a lot of people go, no, I'll just project manage it myself. I'm not going to get a building permit because I really don't understand it, and I'll bring in the electricians. I was at a project at the Docklands a few weeks ago, and it was a small office fit out. It was 2 levels, there was a mezzanine, and I said, you know, this is probably an $80,000, $90,000 fit out. They had a $40,000 budget. I said, there's just no way. I said, you could do it, you know, by yourself. You could project manage it. But I said, when you got to get the electrician up there on a scaffold, do you know that they've got to have a harness? And you got to write the SWIMS, which is the work safe safety method on how that person is got to do that work. Now, if you don't do that, and that electrician or that painter who's up 6 meters up slips and falls and dies, and you don't have a building permit or a registered builder, who's liable? When WorkSafe come in, who's liable? You, because you wanted to save a couple of dollars. Getting a registered interior designer and or architect and a builder is really, really important. And when they say, we're doing this because you need a building permit, because it's there to protect you. We're doing the DDA because we want a design access around disability so we don't discriminate. So if there is an accident on site, then we're covered. It's all about protecting yourself. And that's what I do with my customers. Foremost, because I think like an interior designer, because I am, and I'm a commercial builder, and then my son runs all the carpentry. So we understand the full perspective, and we're dealing with all the regulatory bodies to get the building permit, to get the DDA consultant approval, to get an electrical engineer, structural engineer, mechanical engineer, a hydraulics engineer, whatever consultant may be required. We bring them in and we pay them the money so that we do it correctly rather than trying to save that money. So when you're doing a project, I would be always allowing at least 10 to 15% of that fee, of whatever your budget is, for the designers, the building permits, can be up to 20%. If you need a DDA consultant, could be $8,000, $9,000. Okay? A lot of people don't think about those incidental costs. But when all of a sudden, when you bring in the interior design fees, the building permit fees, a DDA consultant, maybe some other type of structural or mechanical engineer, whatever it might be, depending if you need an exhaust flute because you're doing, you know, a noodle box, you know, and you need, you're cooking with woks and gas and all that kind of stuff. You need consultants to document how it's going to be. That's going to cost you money. So people go, oh, you know, I've got $50,000 or $80,000 for my fit out, but what about your consulting fees? What about your consulting fees? All right? And every job, it's going to need consulting fees. And you want to have people that can do it properly, so you're going to pay them a little bit more money. All right, I'm going to open it up for some questions because I think I've got a 35-40 minute slot here and sort of 30 minutes on discussion. Is there any questions that you want to ask me around anything in the fit out game? Like what, you know, is there any questions, like if you've got, like, I can help you right now as a consultant at no cost. So you said you're doing a job. Can we get the mic over here?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, my name is Ahmed.
Hey Ahmed, how are you, man? My name's Mark.
Not bad.
Who do you follow in the footy, man?
No food.
No football, soccer. Everyone, so many people today. Socceroos, I love it, man.
Yeah, this we're building a showroom for construction. Okay, I have application for construction management, and one of the things we need to build actually a showroom to show all the the fit out interior stuff, handles everything, sinks everything. And actually, it is. I know you need a like registered builder 100%, and I know all the registration everything about it. But what about the design itself? Is the design need to be registered as well as the interior without structure?
So, so I'm a registered interior designer and a registered commercial builder. So I have both registrations. Unfortunately, it's not a regulated thing where if you're more of a decorator, interior decorator, and then you win some more commercial jobs, that they really don't know that they shouldn't be doing it. That's not to say that they can't. It's not to say that they can't. But if you require a building permit, on the building permit, the Form 6A says who is the registered interior designer, who is the registered architect, who is the registered engineer, who is the DDA consultant, so on, so on. Then underneath that it says who is the registered builder. So to answer your question, if you need a building permit to do the works, yes, you do need a registered interior designer or architect, 100%.
It's great that you have that dual perspective.
Hello, done a few of these in the past, but big ones. Now, these days we live in a whole new world with AI. Grab every single one of your contracts, plug it in, and get AI to review each of your contracts for compliance against all the regulatory bodies. Highlight the risks, where there are gaps in both the contract as well as the compliance. Use the resources available.
Yeah.
And then get a professional.
Yeah. And always, if you're going to do AI, don't go 100%, 95% exactly do that, and then get a lawyer to look at it. Just spend the money. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I'm not a lawyer. Well, I almost got a law degree, but that's because I understand litigation and insurances and compliance. So I don't want to go down that area. But yes, if you're going to do that with AI, 100%, but then get a lawyer, run their eyes over it. So again, that contingency cost, that's not just your fit out cost. There's all these other fees that end up being there. But it's a great question.
Anyone else? Your favorite job that you've worked on?
Beg your pardon?
Favorite job that you've worked on?
I do a lot of medicinal cannabis dispensaries.
That's a good business investment.
Not for me, but for my clients it is. So it's pretty interesting when you build a medicinal cannabis dispensary. There's a lot of regulatory bodies that you have to go through, and that's what we like to do, a lot of high compliance stuff. But when you go there after they've got the occupancy permit and you have a look at when they're up and trading, well, you open that vault and you know what's in there. So they're really fun. But an interesting story, I did one in Richmond, and actually Andrew, my finance guy, funded it. It was a great project, and basically when the joiner came in, because it was an old building and out of square, when they put the bench tops in for the pharmacy dispensary area, their installer had to cut some of the benches. And so we were getting the occupancy permit, and then I had the pharmacy board booked in for their inspection. And so as part of the pharmacy board, in their guidelines, the bench tops have to be 650 millimeters as a minimum in all areas. Well, you can imagine what the installers did, because it was out of square. What did they do? They cut 10 mil off some of the benches. Now, of course, my job is to pick that up, and my job is to advise the client that we have this problem, and then my job is to tell the joiner that my drawings say 650 mil from edge to edge. You're at 630 mil, all of these bench tops have to come out. And they did.
That's quite a big setback.
Wasn't a setback because it was done very quickly, but that's your contingency plan, because a good designer, builder is onto all of that. Doesn't wait, the pharmacy board's measuring it, and then all of a sudden we're 20 mil, because the pharmacy board only does inspections once a month. Now, if you've just spent $350,000 on a fit out and you've got an occupancy permit, but the pharmacy board won't allow you to open because the bench tops are 10 mil too small because the places aren't square, but it was documented as 650 and the installer just took it on his own merit to go and cut it without actually asking the joinery company. And that's where somebody who knows their stuff will step in and deal with that problem and get it done quickly so that it's ready for that inspection by the pharmacy board. So there's some of the jobs that we work with, okay? And another thing that I will add to that, and when we pay our building surveyor, so a building surveyor is somebody that issues a building permit. We will always pay our building surveyor when they quote the job, we'll ask them to do one site inspection prior to we start. We'll pay the extra $500-600 to do that. The reason that we do that is that building surveyor who's going to issue the building permit and then the occupancy permit will tell us all the problems right here at the start. So that whether we're designing it or there's another architect or designer designing it, we can understand that this is what the problem is going to be, that he's going to look for down at this end at the occupancy inspection. Because remember, your architect, your designer, and your PM, your project manager are not there at the occupancy inspection. It's the builder and it's the building surveyor. That's it. And if the building surveyor is not happy, he or she won't issue a occupancy permit. Let me give you another example. We did a fit out in Keynote Road called Many Green. It's an 800 square metre fit out, full medicinal cannabis, vault. We had 5 consultation rooms, 2 treatment rooms for psychedelics, fully acoustic, a whole lot. Made them put in disabled toilets, showers, the whole lot. The building inspector came through. He went through the whole project, 20 minutes, not a problem. My client, the 2 farmers, can't believe it. He gets to the end and he says, the green release quick button, you know a green release button for disabled access? You know what I'm talking about? In shops, to open your shop front? Yeah. It was 5 millimeters in the incorrect spot. So he said, so we're talking about a $700,000 fit out, and we're talking about one green button that he believes is 5 mil in the wrong spot, because it's got to be 500 mil from the shop front for disabled access and a certain height to be able to, in a wheelchair, to get it. So I said, no problem. I ring my technician who installed it, who gave me a compliance certificate to say that it was compliant, right? Because there's no way that I would go, let's do an inspection for occupancy if it's not compliant, because I've got all the compliance certificates from all my trades and suppliers. So I said, he goes, no, it's wrong. So I ring the technician. The technician and the building surveyor are on the phone, on my phone, on a speaker, having a debate about what the building code is on this 5 mil. Is it from the center or from the edge of the green button? I have 2 pharmacists that spent all this money waiting to open, and we're having an argument not about anything else in this whole fit out except for the location, because it's 5 mil out. So I said to the technician, I said, sorry, I'm going to cut you all off. I said, buddy, technician, sorry, in my world, the inspector is right and he's God. Come back and move it 5 mil, because we're not getting anywhere and we're not going to open it up. And we hung up. I got him that afternoon to come back, moved it 5 mil, got hit with a variation from the building inspector to come back to say, yep, it's in the right spot. That's compliance, and you have to be able to get people to jump, and that's what we do. Why do we get people to jump so quickly? Why do they change the bench shops? Why do they do so quickly? Because we pay them fast. We pay people fast because we're in the fit-out game. The fit-out game is all about speed. Getting all of that work done in that timeline and getting all the compliance so that you can get open as soon as you can.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Love that story.
Yeah, I am very good. Okay. Is there any other questions before I wind it up? Yes.
How will you get law and interior design degree in the same time? How do you get the know-how interior design? You get the same.
How did I get? No. Yeah. So I tell you a funny story. How long have I got? I got a couple of minutes. So when I was an interior designer back in the day, one of the first Japanese sushi bars I did was in Fitzroy Street, South Melbourne. And the client had a builder and I was doing a bit of project management. And the builder had pressured the customer to pay the final bill. And I said, you shouldn't have paid the final bill. And they said, why? I said, because they put this exhaust flute canopy on the outside of the building to connect, which is all fine, but we still don't have the approval for it. It's going to be approved, but we don't have the physical approval. So you shouldn't have installed it. Oh, but the builder was pressuring, we paid him. I said, well, you shouldn't have. So you know what happened? The client stopped the check, because we're talking about 30 years ago, stopped the check. The builder sued the client sued the builder, and then they both joined me. That was my first start of an insurance claim with HIH, who went into administration years ago, and understanding the legalities of fit outs and really understanding that you have to think as a lawyer. Everything in my binders is completely documented. Every single thing is documented. Why? Because I need to take that and go into a courtroom and go, here it is. Okay? So, but the client actually did the wrong thing, because stopping a check is actually fraud. Yeah, it's actually fraud. So you can't, well, not that we write checks now, but back then, yeah. So they had to pay the builder. They're the stuff that happens. You know, and when you're in the building industry, when you're learning, you learn by understanding the mistakes. Cool, man. All right, are we nearly done? Have we got time for one more?
Yeah, one more question.
One more question.
One more story?
I've got lots of stories.
Yeah, here's another story. I heard.
Do you bring some beers?
One more story. Check everything, including when your building's down below, it's raining, it's a muddy building site, and Telstra have gone and put their pit up the top, and all the mud has run into the pit. They didn't plug it, and then the mud's run straight downhill into the computer room. So check everything. $26 million mistake. Ouch.
Can you do that?
I can, I've got a good one. So that particular job in Carnegie, in Kunang Road, we had to do when we were doing the vault, we had to do the concrete slab, and we had to dig out all the piers, and it was right on the boundary, and we had all this water in these holes. And I'm like, where the hell's this water coming from? So I go to the next shop, it's a fruit and veg shop, and they got their cool room, and they got this cool room motor that's just dripping water, and everything's broken, and I reckon it's going down into our shop. And I told the owners, they go, that's impossible. I go, are you sure? Like, I reckon it is. They're like, no, it's not ours. I'll go, would you mind if I put some green dye in your water? They're like, sure, go ahead. 2 days later, where was the green dye? In my shop. That's my last story. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Fitout. You done right the first time.